Thom Malone is with us. Tom, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, Ger, how's it going?
So,
you all right? Enjoying the return of kids in school and the like?
Yeah, and like a little bit of weather. And then, just in case we were all getting a bit carried away, then the weather disappears again. But it looks nice out on the gallops where you are.
Yeah, no, it's actually quite nice. And to be fair, it looks like Cheltenham are going to have significantly better ground than we had last year, which will be positive for many horses. And I suppose as a spectacle as well, you know, you do want these horses to run on slightly better ground. You don't really want it on, you know, thick, heavy ground. It's going to be weird enough with no crowds anyway. So you want the ground to be pretty decent.
Okay, so we now have 5-day declarations for Tuesday. That's how close we are. We're breathing down the neck of Cheltenham at this point. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but we have an idea of what horses are going where. There were some potentials. We thought that Honeysuckle was going for the Champion Hurdle, but there was a possibility that she wouldn't.
Yeah, there was a slight possibility because, I mean, you know, the thing with those markets, when you're kind of this far out, several horses will have multiple entries. So it was just good yesterday to just get it, like we thought it was going to happen. So it's just good to really see it confirmed that Honeysuckle is going to go for the Champion Hurdle. Look, she's favourite, but I mean, she's not super short. She's kind of a similar enough price for this year's Champion Hurdle as she was for last year's Mares Hurdle, you know, 9-4. So it's pretty fascinating. We still have Appreciated top in the market in the Supreme. That's kind of cut up a little bit, but you're still going to get a decent field in that. We had 18 stand yesterday, so that suggests it'll be a good deep field in that one. You've got the Arkle as well. The big thing about the Arkle is that, you know, the big 2 or 3 have stood up. Yeah, we've got Shishkin and Energumene. Obviously, Shishkin's still warm water favourite for that, but Willie Mullins and Energumene, he's obviously the big Irish hope in it, but there could be a fly in the ointment. All Mankind is going to make this a very different test compared to what the other horses have seen thus far, so that's pretty fascinating as well.
Okay, so some of the races that we didn't get to mention in the last couple of weeks, the Ryanair Chase and the Stayers Hurdle, what's the crack with those?
Yeah, well, the Ryanair Chase is kind of funny. I mean, we've kind of heard a bit about Michael O'Leary in the last couple of weeks, obviously, given he's a major owner with Gordon. And he has, you know, he's never actually, despite personally sponsoring, I mean, it carries the name Ryanair, but it doesn't actually come out of the Ryanair marketing budget. It's personally sponsored by Michael O'Leary. And he's never actually won the race. You think of some of the brilliant horses he's running it over the last couple of years, including the like of Don Cossack, who managed to get beaten in the race before he actually won it. So it's probably last chance saloon for him, but he's kind of stuck with the likes of Sam Crow and Battle Over Doyen, who are very much on that sort of retrieval missions for this race. So it looks really like a Willie Mullins carve up, whatever he wants to do. He's got the likes of Min and Alaho in this, so they're pretty strong at the top of the mark, and they look to have a warm water chance. But it's very difficult to think sort of, you know, nostalgically about Michael O'Leary's involvement in the sport of racing, and, you know, have a sort of sympathetic ear for him. But, you know, even us cold-hearted souls who, you know, don't particularly like maybe the experience you might get at the airline sometimes, might like to see him win his own race. And I mean, if Sam Crow were to do it, that would be quite the exceptional story, given how many I mean, the horse has had as many lows as highs over the course of his career so far.
Okay, so that's the Ryanair Chase. What about the Stayers Hurdle?
Yeah, the Stayers Hurdle is fascinating once again, because obviously this time last year was just, I mean, it was a how far is Paisley Park going to win by situation. And then he obviously bombed on the day, and Lisnagar Oscar came and won at a huge price. This year we've also had Thym Hill come in and become a really big player in that division as well. So, like I said, a regular feature of the Stayers Hurdle is just a really warm water favourite coming back to regain their crown, the likes of, you know, Big Bucks or Barracuda or the like over the years. So Paisley Park is going to have a fight in his hands to regain his crown. And it's absolutely fascinating. Like I said, Thym Hill himself got into a battle the last day at Ascot when, I mean, Paisley Park just looked beaten all ends up, and he just stayed on. So that's going to be fascinating. Then, like I say, you've got the reigning champ Lisnagar Oscar in there, who's come into this race slightly under the radar, but he had a nice prep run as well. So that's kind of set that race up really nicely. So again, it's kind of weird. I mean, people would bemoan the Ryanair and the Stayers Hurdle as kind of almost not proper championship races, because Ted Walsh used to say, well, who wants to breed a 3-mile hurdler? Like, you know what I mean? Everyone wants a champion hurdler. So it's good to see that there's really good competition in these races that maybe don't have the historical prestige of champion hurdle, champion chaser, Gold Cup.
Okay. There's a story about Envoy LN and his groom getting to lead him up at Cheltenham. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's quite a nice little story. I mean, there's so much negativity come out of the Gordon story, obviously, which is to be completely expected. And, a lot of people were concerned about the stable staff and the links and the love they have for the horses. So obviously Envoy LN was moved to Henry de Bromhead's yard as part of that. But Henry de Bromhead has said that Shawneen Mahan, who is Envoy LN's groom, will get to lead her up. She will get to lead him up, rather, in the Marsh Chase. So that's just going to be it's a nice gesture by Henry to someone who's obviously very affected by a situation she was a completely innocent party to. So that's just a really nice touch, you'd have to say, by Henry de Bromhead and Sheedley Park. It's worth pointing out as well that the Irish stable staff, they'll kind of have to live in their own little Irish stable staff bubble due to all of the, the COVID restrictions that come into play just even to get across to the festival this year. Okay,
so that's how it's working. They're going to keep the British staff and the Irish staff separate.
Yeah, there's going to be kind of a series of bubbles, similar to kind of not completely similar to the NBA, but the Irish staff, they obviously all have to get their tests and stuff like that. They have to head over early. And then when they get back over there, they have another test, I think, on the other side as well. And then the Irish staff all stay in a separate area from the British staff. So, as you say, it's a very different festival. It looks like a lot of work has gone into making sure it works and making sure it just goes ahead in the first place. So, the stable staff, it'll be very different for them. Just like I said, they're going to have to live in there. There'll be an Irish stable staff bubble, a UK stable staff bubble, and I think even for the jockeys as well, it's not going to be straightforward.
All right, and we should acknowledge that it's going to be a very, very weird Cheltenham 2021.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a completely different scenario, isn't it? I mean, just for punters, the thing about Cheltenham this time around, it's kind of crept up on us a little bit, hasn't it? Because obviously with that Gordon story last week, it just dominated kind of all of the discussion in horse racing sphere. And now here we are, a week out, less than a week out from the Cheltenham Festival. And, it's kind of dawning on people, well, we can't go to the pub. You can't, okay, you've taken your 5 days off or whatever, booked a bit of holiday leave. And, well, what are you going to do? The same thing as you've been doing all year long anyway. So, and, no bookie shops open. I mean, maybe I'm in the minority who has a real soft spot for having a bet in a bookie shop. And, that feeling of getting cash back over the counter. And if you do have a winner, just deciding to go to a restaurant in the evening. So that's all going to be taken away. And, the roar of the Supreme won't be there either. So it's going to be a week where we just have to try and focus on what we do have and not try to worry too much on what we're missing out on.
That's a good point. Will there be fake crowd noise?
I think there will be fake crowd noise, and there will have there will be a parade ring MC as well, which they had at Leopardstown too. Kevin O'Ryan was doing that at Leopardstown, so he was calling winners back to music and all when there's 20 odd people there. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm sure they're going to try and make as much of a fuss and as they possibly can. ITV Racing hasn't carried crowd noise thus far on their coverage, so it'd be intriguing to see if they do sort of introduce that, because it's something that Racing TV, when they came over here first, did introduce fake hoof noises during the races, because even when you're during a race, there's no sound if the action is away from the crowd. So they actually already include a backing track of literally hooves thumping on the ground, and there's a fake noise as they jump over the fences. So there is that already. It's just whether they add an element of crowd noise to it as well.
I mean, now that you mention it, the sound of the jump has always been very similar and quite pronounced. I assumed it was real. It's fake.
Well, some are real. I mean, obviously there are microphones down at the ones at the last and the like, but no, they don't have a pitch side microphone at every single jump and every single race. So yeah, there is just a backing track that just goes along with the hoofprints. I feel like mind blown. I feel like I'm telling you some sort of state secret here. Or, you've just been told about the Easter Bunny.
Whoa, Tom.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, look. I mean, what? Okay.
I know. We So they just once the race jumps off. So sometimes, obviously, I watch way too much racing TV. So obviously, sometimes they mistime it, and they'll have the kind of galloping noises start before the race. But generally they're pretty good at it.
Okay, the galloping noise is fake too. Jesus.
Yeah,
Right.
the galloping noise is fake. Well, like, they can't have a microphone.
Why not?
following
They're
the
like, it's
horses
TV.
around.
Mics are cheap these days. You can get them. Like, I thought there was somebody was mic'd up at all points, but obviously not.
You thought there was just a guy, a boom op, just following him around in a truck.
On a horse.
Pretty much.
Right. Okay. Jesus, Tom.
On that note.
Good luck. Thanks a million. Thom Malone will be part of our Cheltenham coverage all week next week, dropping truth bombs and killing our dreams.